Okay, we're in the middle of a sugya, a total digression from a Masechta Nedarim. You feel like you're in the Shemitah year. It's a whole sugya in Zerayim. So let's go through the shaila that we saw yesterday. He said, Rabbi Yishmael Kfar Yama or Diyama, he lived near the ocean or the sea, he comes up with a shaila. If you take a onion of Shemitah, it grew in the 7th year, so it has Kedusha Shemitah, and you plant it in the 8th year. And now clearly you have more growth of the 8th year than the onion. It's grown more. So you have more gidulin than the Isser, than the Shvius. How do you view that growth? Do you view it as an extension of the Shemitah? Since it came from Shemitah fruit, it's Shemitah fruit, and it would not be Mevatalit? Or do you say no? Do you say that it's an entry on himself and it's mutter, and the whole thing would be mutter? That's the way the Ran learned the shaila. In other words, really it's a shaila in the gidulim. It's not a shaila in the bittul. But in the mela, once you're asking the shaila, if it's mevatel, you'll be able to be placed at the shaila. If it's mevatel, obviously it's a separate entity. If it's not mevatel, then it's an extension. That's the way the Ran learned Pshat. Again, Tosis and the Rosh both learned differently. But let's stay with the Ran's Pshat. So the whole shaila is, how do you view gidulim? Do you view it as an extension of the original Isser, or do you view it what? As a new entity unto itself? So Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha said, from a case of truma, that if you take truma and you plant it in the ground, when you go ahead, and it would now no longer be truma. It'll be tevel. You'll be able to eat mutter achilas aroy. You'll be able to eat it before it's an achilas kva. You'll be able to eat it. That's lashon of mutter. But you see that it lost its entity as what? As a piece of truma. So you have a raya that the object that grows from the Isser is not Asr. It's not Asr anymore. It changed the entity. So the object growing is mutter. That's the way Rabbi Yitzchak after was Paisha the Shaila. Rabbi, we're just going over yesterday's Gemara. Came along Rev Yirmiyah, and he approached Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, and he said, "Why are you soymich on one person who said it is not mevatlet? It is mevatlet. I'll show you two people that say that it's not mevatel. I'll show you Rabbi Yochanan by Arla and Rabbi Yonason by Klei Karem, that it retains its original Issa, meaning the extension is part of the Issa. By Arla, what was the case? You took a tree that was not Arla, you took an Arla branch with fruit on it, you grafted it to the tree. The Arla, now it grows 200 of its growth, which is the share of Bitla by Arla. It's still Arla. So what do you see? The extension has the din of the what? Of the Isser. That's one raya connected you, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha from Truma. The second raya connected you, some Kaya Kere. Rabbi Yonason says, if you would take an onion, put it in a kerem, it now has the loch of Kaya Kerem, it's Asar Bahana. Clear out the kerem, it still would be Asar. It grew now more than the original. When you clear out the kerem, which is Shasheta, no longer is Kaya Kerem, it still retains its identity as Kaya Kerem. So you see two places where the thing that grew has the same halacha of the Issa. So therefore, we came to another place and we said the following: if you go ahead and you take something that was upgeshet, you mafish trumas amaisa, you planted it in the ground, and now it grew, you would be chayiv to take of trumas and maisa even on the piece of things that was tithed already, that was upgeshet. You would chayiv to take off in that. So what do you see? That what anything that grows from that, it's mevatalit. It is mevatalit. Of course, again, you don't say it's tied already. You have to take it off. So the Gemara says there's no raya from there. That was a kula. That was a chumrah. In other words, when something's mutter and it grows, and then you have to it doesn't get a din of that piece, meaning it doesn't have a din of that piece. It's not batal. The piece it doesn't extend to that piece. The mela, that's a chumrah. Masha'enken, I want to know when it's a kula. If you plant Shemitah, you plant Arla, you plant Kerem, and it's Mavat, and it doesn't have a din of that's what I want to know. So that's we're holding by trying to be placed in the Shaila. How do you view the entity that grows from the Isser? How do you view that? So again, we're gonna finally decide on the Amid Beis. The Maskana will finally decide on the Beis that it doesn't have the din of the entity, as we'll see. B'ezras Hashem. And right now we will take a few more attempts. So says the Gemara, Elamin Hada. Okay.
I understand that, but I'm in an apartment. I can't.
Here. Ella from the following. Ella min hadaf. From here, let's make it right. The Tanya. Reb Shimon Omer. Now, outside, guys, last Friday, something that will, right now it's asa, but it'll be muta, or you can do something to matter it. Beitza shenol de biyantif, it's asa on yantif, it's muta after yantif. So we said afilu be'elef loy batal, right? We said, Rashi said, why eat it be'issa when you can eat it be'heta? We had the whole lumdus of the ran, two things fighting against each other, min b'mino, when it's close to each other, so min it makes it close to each other. When it's davar sheish matir and it's einem, it's close to being mino. We had that big ran. So now we're going to go ahead and go through a brisa, and from this brisa, we're going to extrapolate that the thing that grows does not have a din of what it comes from. Kol davar sheish matirin, kigoin tevel. Because tevel, again, you can be mafish truma from another place on it, so therefore it's a davar sheish matirin. U'maisa sheni, you can be paid the maisa sheni. The hegdish, you can be paid the hegdish. The chadash, after you bring the carbon oimer on tezayin, or bisman hazeh, just when tezayin passes, it's matirin. All these things, nosnu l'chachamim share. The chachamim what gave a share. Anything they gave a share. What's the share? Afilu be'elef le'batal. And anything that what is ein matirin that doesn't have a shaseta, you're going truma with trumas maisa. That's the part that the Levi takes over from his maisa rishon and gives to the kohen, the chala, the orlov koya kerem. Naslim chacham share. The chacham what gave a share. So the leinaslu b'chacham share by davar sheish matirin they didn't give a share. What do you mean they didn't give a share? Afilu be'elef le'batal. If your chadash gets mixed in, or chadash gets mixed in, it's not batal. Why? Because you can take it off the issa. Something that you can't take off the issa, the chacham gave a share, and that share is shishim. However, if it's truma, it's 100, and if it's arla, it's 200. So the chacham gave a share. When it says they didn't give a share, means it's not batal. They didn't give a share. There is no share. It's not batal. Period. When they gave a share, meaning it's shaykh bittul, and this is the share that is required for bittul, right? Again, I didn't give a share. Why? Not bittul. I gave a share, and whatever that share I gave you, 60, 100, 200, vis-a-vis, that's going to be the share of bittul. Good. So far, no question. Amuloi, they said to Reb Shimon, "V'aloi shvius ein lo matirin." Shvius is something once it gets kedush shmita. It doesn't. It's a davar she'ein lamatirin. V'leinastu b'chachamim share, and the chacham did not give a share. Now, what do you mean, guys? Let's figure it out. If it doesn't have a share, it means shvius afilu be'elef lebatal, right? That's what it means. Shvius afilu be'elef lebatal. That nan hashvius aiseres kol shehu b'mina. Right? You go ahead and mix together with shmita a little bit, b'mashu asa. They didn't give a share. It's a dava she'ein matirin. It's the same as arla klei kerem. It's the same as any right. So l'chayra, your formula that you gave Reb Shimon is not correct. Again, we didn't get to the kasha yet, guys. Just we're developing it. Okay. So your share you're giving shmita obviously is a dava she'ein matirin, and nonetheless, it doesn't have a share, meaning it's not batal. So Amalehem, they told her Amalehem, af ani lo yamarti. So Reb Shimon told them, I also only said it ela lebir, meaning after this amount of beer. Avol leachila b'noising tam. I only said that it's asa b'mashahu is only ela lebir. In other words, before the shasa beer, you're able to eat it. Before the shasa beer, you're able to eat it. So since before the shasa beer you're able to eat it, therefore what it would be considered a dava sheyesh loy matirin. Let me make sure I'm telling you right pshat, right? Yeah, you could eat it before this man of beer, right? So regarding the beer, this man of beer, it's a dava sheyesh matirin. In other words, the halacha is as long as it's available for the animals in the field, you can keep it in your house. Good. Once it's the animals stopped eating it, then you have to remove it from your house. So before the Zman of the beer, it's a Davar Sheish Matirin, and that's where I apply the rule of that is afilu be'elef lebatel. Good, but le'achila, meaning after the Zman of beer, where no longer do you have a heter whatsoever, then it's shishim like anything else. Good, then it's shishim like anything else. Good, that's what he says. So again, you asked we didn't develop the question, the raya yet. We just got information. Reb Shimon said a rule. Davar sheish namatirin if you'll elef lebatel. Davar sheish namatirin has a share. Question: Shvius is a davar shein matirin, and yet it doesn't have a share. Afilu elef lebatel. Says Reb Shimon. When did I say afilu elef lebatel? Is before the zman habir, which is a davar sheish matirin by eating it. Good. Masha came after the zman habir, where it's asal achilu v'rakadusha shmita. Then einachinami it's b'nai same time. That's what he said. Now, what's the kasha? What's the kasha over here? What's the kasha over here? What's this taruvis? If you have to see, there's a little hashvius iseres b'chol shehu. Guys, look at the Ran. Hashvius iseres b'chol shehu b'mina. Going on that word, that the shmita would go ahead and it would aser b'chol shehu. Now, bein b'taruvis peiris heter b'shel shvius, whether it's mutter dika fruit with shrita dika fruit, we don't need that. We need this. Bain bigidulim. It would aser even bigidulin. This is what we need. Meaning, it's mixed together with its bigidulin, meaning it grew. Kigoin botzel shishes shenata b'shvius. Guys, look at me. This onion is a 6th-year onion. You planted it in the Shemitah year. So this 6th-year onion is heter, right? You plant it in the Shemitah year. Good. And what did you say? You said it's still going to be usher, meaning we don't view the Shemitah fruit coming from the 6th as mutter. If you would view the entity coming from where it was, it would be mutter because it's a 6th year. In other words, this is coming from a heter. It's coming from a 6th and it's growing. And what's the halacha? It's batal nice in time, right? It's batal. It depends before the zman beer, after the zman beer. But the kasha or the raya we want to bring is from the fact that we view what grew in the 8th year as a separate entity from what it came from. It came from a 6th, so we can go ahead and be poshed as shaila that grows from something is a different halacha completely. It doesn't get the halacha status of where it came from. How was that? Okay, I'll make it very quick, guys. Watch. Something that's mutter, if something grows from it, should also be mutter. Over here, you have something that's mutter, a 6th-year vegetable, onion. This thing that's growing from it is still asa. So what do you see? That this does not go after this. Very pashut. Good. That's the kasha. What's the teretz? The same teretz we gave. Here you want to go ahead and be machmer. What are you saying? This is mutter. It's a 6th year. Right? And now, like we said before, you took off Maisa and now you want to be Machmir. We didn't have a Shaila by that. Rav Yishmael's Shaila was when it's counting to be Makel, where you have a Dov Machmir, a 7 to an 8. That would be price of the Shaila. I have a 7, which is Shemitah, which is Asar, and you planted in the 8th year. Then, if you tell me it's not bottled, you can go ahead and have answer my Shaila. But when you're being Machmir to tell me a Dov that's Mutter like a 6th, going to a 7 is going to be Asar, that is no Chiddush to me. Says the Gemara, the same text we just gave, the Dilma Hanami L'chumra shiny, maybe what L'chumra shiny. So we weren't Paisha Shaila. Again, going over for the umpteenth time, a Shaila is something that comes from another thing, doesn't have the halacha of that other thing or not. That's a Shaila. Where was a Shaila? A 7 to an 8. You had a Shemitah fruit, you put the onion in the 8th year, right? We want to know, is that Gedulim also like where it came from, or is it Muta? You want to be pushed here from Shemitah, a 6 to a 7. You can't be pushed a 6 to a 7. Why? Because we're machmir by saying that that the 7 doesn't get the halacha of the 6. That way being machmir. We want to know if you're makel and saying that that the 7 gets the halacha of the 8. That's the shayla. Elamin hada pashta. Let's be pushed from the following. Didnan a Mishnah in Shvius. And this we're speaking, guys, a 6 to a 7. Good. Again, here's another 6 to a 7. But Salem sheyardu aleim geshamim. You have onions it was a 6th-year onion. You planted it in the ground, and now geshamim fell down upon them. Geshamim fell down upon them. But samchu, and it grew. You want to know what's the din of the leaves. Does the leaves have a din of the ground, and it will be usher a 7th-year growth, or there's a din of the onion, which is a 6th-year growth. Im hayu olin shelahem shchayrim, if the leaves were black, the Ran says black over here means a dark hue of green, a dark H-U-E, a dark hue of green. In other words, a really forest green, a very dark green. Then asurim, they will be asa. The fact that this healthy color shows they're growing from the ground. That's a shemitah growth. Hoyriku, however, if it's a faint green, then mutarim, because then it's a raya, it grew from the onion, which is a 6th year. But that we don't need that. If you could take the what grew and pick it up out of the ground, so the olim are so attached to the onion, then asurim, then there would us. It's a raya that it grew in the 7th year. Here's the raya what we need. Meaning, if you took a 7th-year shemitah issa fruit, onion, you planted it in the 8th year, and you pulled it up in the 8th year, and it came out whole, is a raya that it grew what year? The 8th year. Good. So now you have a raya, something that was asa, the shemitah fruit, and something that is what? That is the 8th year adav mutta, that it does not have the halacha of what? Of the issa that it came from. It's maila, it goes over it. It's batal the issa. It came from an issa of shmita. It's mutter now, because we're going to say that the heter is maila the issa. So you can bring a raya that in that scenario that it does not get the halacha what it came from, and that can be paisha the shaila. So the first part you couldn't be paisha because that's a 6 to 7, and you're going from a chumrah ahead. We're being makel. A 6 is mutter to a 7. Over here it's a 7 to an 8. You're coming from a 7. A 7 is asa, right? It's shmita, and nonetheless, you're telling me if it's strong enough, you pick it up in the 8th year. It has to innovate. It's coming from this. It's a raya that this from this. It's mavaklet. So therefore, we can be paisha the shaila. That's the very geshmak. So let's see it inside. And here's the raya that we need. If it's the shvius year 7 to 8, mutarin, it'll be muta. Remember to say the geduli heta ma'ilin esa issa, that the geduli heta overcomes the issa. How are we doing? And now you can't say l'chumra, guys. This is l'kula. You're saying l'kula. You're saying it's muta. You're saying it's muta. So l'chari we can question shaila. Says the more, maybe not. Maybe it's speaking this thing b'duchanim. What is duchanim? Look at the bottom line in the Ran. Dilma b'duchanim stadcha v'shachak habesalim. Right? You could go into meduchim ninu. You crush them up. Gri mamshchi gedule basrayu. In other words, maybe it's not speaking where you put a complete fruit in. If I put a whole onion in. Maybe it will be asa because it comes from the onion. What did this smart person do? He took the 7th year and he ground it up and he put it in the ground. It will still grow. But since it's meduchanim, we do not apply the halacha of the growth coming from the ikar, because the ikar is not such an ikar. It's mamish cut up. So you have the raya. The raya, Rabbi Shmuel, was a whole onion. Would you go ahead and say by a whole onion that the isser has the din, the growth has the din of the isser? You wanted to be pushed from here that the growth does not have a din of the issa because the olam amutta. Maybe that's speaking why, because there wasn't a whole onion; it was a crushed up onion. So you have no raya. So back to the original question, guys. We're all good. I'm being repetitious. We're all good, right? Harold, you good? Harold, you're running out of time. Okay. Anyway. So now Ella min hada the Tanya, okay, the Tanya. Hamenachesh. This is going to be our final raya, guys. This is going to be successful. This is a Tosefta in Trumas and Perik. Hey or ches, yes. Okay, this is a Tosefta, and this is going to be our final raya. Let me make sure Tosefta Perik ches. Right. This is going to be a final raya. Now we know the kutim will choishiv on trumas and maisa. That's why you have to take off what's called the mai. You have to separate maisa. Now hamenachesh imakute. You're weeding with a kutim. You have a kuti. You're weeding this field, and You're working with him. Something called b'chayasais. Something called b'chayasais. But we'll see what that is in a second. Now, the halacha is, in other words, this person clearly is a kuti. He didn't separate Trumas and Ma'aser. So the same halachas would apply as a normal Jew who's working for the first time, the field was untithed. So the halacha is, before Gemar Malacha, you're able to eat an achilas aroi while you're in the field. Meal here also. And then when you have the chance, when it's Gemar Malacha, you will take off Trumas and Ma'aser. Good. Rabbi Shimon, this is what we need. Rabbi Shimon Allah Zainer, in Yisrael Chashed al Shvius, if it's the Yisrael that's chayshid for working during the Shemitah year, and therefore his fruit could be the Shemitah fruit, L'moitzi Shvius, meaning you took his Shemitah fruit and you planted it in the Shemitah in the 8th year, Mutta, it's Mutta. So now, guys, you have a 7 to an 8. You have the Gedulim growing in the 8th, and it's Mutta. So how do you see that obviously that comes from the original entity does not have the halacha original entity, and since it's a majority, it will overcome that entity, right? That's what this is again. It's a shemitah fruit. It's an onion. He put it in the ground in the 8th. You now have more gidulin than the original onion, and the halacha is that it's mutter. So what do you see? A, that the growth from the onion is mutter, and B, once it's mutter, it's mavatalit. So we push it to Shaila. Guys, this stands. This is the winner. We're going to ask kashas on it now, but this is the winner. This is the maskana. That in fact, it's mavatalit, meaning that grows from a dava isser, and this is dava isser here, does not have the halach of the isser. Good? So now, remember, you mean to say the giduli heta mailanis isser, that the heta that goes ahead and it's maila makes it's machsha the isser? B'dilma b'dava shezara kala. Maybe it's speaking. You know why? There is no remnant of the original issa. Maybe it's some type of. All we said is chayasais. We don't know anything else. Maybe chayasais is something that the zara is the seed dissipates in the ground, so there is no remnant of what? Of shemitah. Masha'en came by onions, is a davar she'ein zaroi kala. Maybe there you would be asa. Good. Says the Gemara, no, it's not possible to say that. Why? Hatanyu elohein chayasais. What exactly are chayasais? Kigoin haluf hashum is garlic, but selim is onions. So therefore, clearly, it's speaking about something shezarish she'ein kala. So memela lechari the shilas you push the shilah well. That it doesn't have the halacha of shmita and it's mila. The dilma b'minichanim. Okay, 1 second. You just gave me a teretz on the Yami Beis. Maybe it's crushed up, and once it's crushed up, it doesn't. And the shilah Rabbi Shmuel was a whole onion. And the Gemara chashed al shviyas. The guy who crushes up the shmita fruit, guy's got to be a lamdan. He's got to be a lamdan to know if you crush it up, it wouldn't have that halacha, right? Who would be crushing it up otherwise? Ella, what do you see? It must be that if he's chashed al shviyas, trust me. If the guy is planting in the Shemitah year, he's not crushing up his vegetables, his onions. So that can't be a teretz. So
how about if you pull it up, like we said before, and it's smaller? That would be considered no good.
We're talking about where you know for sure it grew more. Or else if it's smaller, it didn't grow. There's no shaila. It has to be where the gedulim are that clearly you know. Now, b'tilma b'taruvis. Maybe it's speaking where it's out of the ground and it's mixed together. Maybe it's speaking where it's out of the ground and it's mixed together. Right? Taisha says, look at Taisvis. V'dilma b'taruvis. Hadik tani l'maitz shvius mutal lacholimo haina b'beisai peiris telushin de'iklamei de'ikaruba depri shegidlu kula b'shvius le'ami klal b'peiris shenichse b'shvius l'shminis. In other words, you assume it's speaking 7 to 8. Maybe it's speaking about a tarubis. You took the 7, you went home and you mixed it up. Maybe not speaking that you about the gedulim. Again, our shiler is what's the gedulim vis-a-vis it's where it came from. Maybe it's speaking about you took a shemitah fruit, you mixed it up, and that's the din. So that it grew mitzvah shvius and you mixed it up. Says the Gemara, Hamenachesh Ketani. It's speaking when you eat it, you're eating a menachesh when you're weeding. It's not when you brought it home. So l'chayro, we have a carte blanche raya, clear-cut raya, that the gedulim is not mevatel, the gedulim is mevatel liyasa. So let's go through it. If I have a shemitah fruit that grows in the 8th, mutter. If I have an orla fruit that's grafted to a tree that grows, it should be mutter. If I have a clay kerem planted in the ground, a vegetable, an onion, remove the kerem, and now it grows, it should be mutter, correct? Based upon our maskana now, right, it should be mutter. The obvious question is, on yesterday's Amid Beis, we had Rabbi Yochanan by Arla, we had Rabbi Yonason by Klei Kerem say, it's still asa. Why is it still asa? Because obviously that came from it is asa. So look, and l'chayra, they're amurayim. They can't argue with a Tosefta. That's why I was being madgish, guys. This is Tosefta. It's the words of Tanoim. Rabbi Yochanan, as great as he was, Rabbi Yonason, as great as he was, cannot argue with a Tosefta. That's so. Frank the Gemara and Yetz. Let's say it's now an upslug on Rabbi Yochanan, who said from Arla it's still asa, and Rabbi Yonason, who said by Klei Kerem it's still asa. Here we see it's muta, and again. So I'm Rabbi Yitzchak, Shanya Shvius. Shvius is different. Hayil vi surah al yedei karka, b'tilasa nami al yedei karka. Beautiful on this. Guys, watch this. Why is Klei Kerem asa? Is it asa because of the ground? What's asa because you have taruvis of fruit with that shuvit Klei Kerem? Obviously, it's taruvis. Why is Arla asa? Is it because of the kedusha of the ground, or because it's mechusas man? You don't have 3 years. Obviously, because you don't have 3 years. Why is Shemitah asa the fruit? Because it grew from the ground in the Shemitah year. What creates the issa? The ground. The same ground that creates the issa can possibly take it off. Mashen came by Arla, which has nothing to do with the ground. Klei Kerem, which has nothing to do with the ground, can zayin that you would say that comes out from it has the same din of Isser, and Ataka, it wouldn't be Mavatalid. So therefore, the raya that you bought by Shemitah is a good raya. The Tosefta is a good raya. We answer Rabbi Yishmael Shaila. Rabbi Yishmael Shaila, a 7 to the 8, does it work? Yes, in fact, it does work. And therefore, you would be mutter to eat the onion, and no problem, right? You answered that. I have a kasha from Arla that it's asa, Klei Kerem it's asa. There, the issa comes from 2 bazundra different things. It doesn't come from the ground. It comes either from karuvis of Klei Kerem or mechusas man of Arla. Mashenkin shvius, which is what? Totally what? In the karka, the bittul of 7 to 8 can come out of the karka. Have a great day. See you.